A staggering 9 out of 10 new businesses unfortunately fail. And the primary and most significant reason isn't just investors or even competitors or a sudden crisis. It's fundamentally because many promising startups simply don't have a truly clear and well-defined business model. A startup without a business model is a road to nowhere. Today, I'll show you precisely what that truly means and how to effectively build a successful business. Startup founders often think that an idea and initial investment are enough, but an idea without a well-defined strategy is simply chaos. There's no clear understanding of who the ideal customer is, no coherent strategy, and no viable monetization. Everything is primarily built on pure enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is indeed great for starting out, but not for successfully continuing a business. Here, you absolutely need to build a robust system. This comprehensive system includes everything essential. And in fact, ultimately, this entire framework is precisely what is called a business model. A business model is the fundamental answer to the crucial question of how your project genuinely creates significant value and how it consistently makes money. And before making this comprehensive video, I meticulously crafted a detailed post where I thoroughly discussed and elaborated upon 9 truly essential and incredibly important strategic points. This foundational framework is precisely what is known as the business model canvas. And what I would really like to show you, to comprehensively share with you, right now I will share my screen with everyone. I specifically and carefully found this particular content just today, and here is precisely what you are about to see. This is the well-known business model canvas, a strategic tool. If you look closely at the top right section, you'll see WKO, which is the Austrian Chamber of Commerce, and they officially posted this particular version on their comprehensive website. I will now switch to the English version of this document, and then we will carefully go through what each of these 9 important points precisely means. So let's go through them one by one. Customer segments are essentially the distinct segments of your valuable clients. So, who exactly is your primary target audience? This is actually a very important and crucial question to consider. In other words, who are you specifically creating your product or service for? And who are the particular people who will ultimately pay for the essential services you offer? The second crucial point to consider is your value propositions, which essentially defines what unique value you offer. What problem are you solving? People don't pay just because something looks nice. It's sure, yes, a very small percentage of people might pay for that, but they won't be your regular customers. A client is really willing to pay when a certain problem is being solved. So what problem does your startup solve? What is its value? This is really extremely important. Many startups often pay very little consideration to this indeed. Lately, in the vibrant city of Vienna, I mostly meet incredibly driven people who are actively creating innovative startups. They're very enthusiastic, truly great individuals of all ages and backgrounds, but the real and significant problem is that there's a big, often challenging question about which specific target group's problems they genuinely want to solve and what exactly those pressing problems truly are. We'll talk about channels later. Through which specific channels do you deliver this important information to your valued client? It's very interesting to note that if you promote your service or product through the entirely wrong channels, at some point you'll inevitably realize that absolutely no one is buying it, and that unfortunate situation will certainly bring your entire business to a complete halt. It's precisely like how I always explain things using the vivid example of water. Water can cost, say, 50 cents or euros in one place. But at the airport, last time I paid, I think, 5 euros for it right before my flight. I mean, I even joked with the seller, asking if he was selling gold or something. But in reality, you already understand that here you're going to pay that price for it. Your product needs to be in demand so that at that moment, the person actually needs it. In other words, the moment should be constant. It's not just about buying water right before a flight. And here, you really need to find the right and most effective channel so that your client, your specific target group, actually sees it and starts actively using it. Because without that crucial engagement, there simply won't be any significant cash flow. No money will be generated. Money needs to come in. That is, investors are always interested in money. How will money come to you? Customer relationship. These are your relationships with customers. How do you build relationships with customers and how do you retain them? This is customer loyalty. In other words, you need to understand what the customer wants. Maybe there are certain shortcomings in your sales. There are gaps that need to be filled. And it's very important at the initial stage. It's actually a crucial must to constantly stay in close touch with your customers and actively listen to them. Don't take criticism as something negative, but rather as help from a friend. This is really very important. Revenue streams, the primary sources of income. What exactly do you truly make money on? Subscription fees, one-time payments, and advertising revenue streams are the primary sources of income. These various sources of income need to be clearly and explicitly defined. It is important that you understand exactly what percentage of your total money comes from each specific source, and this detailed breakdown forms your revenue budget. Not profit, but specifically the total revenue is what you are calculating and focusing on here. Key resources. Key resources. What do you need for the business to operate? Team, technology, equipment. So, for example, if you are producing some kind of a particular product, you might have some specialized equipment that's only for the demonstration version. That is, for scaling up, you need something different. In other words, you need to have a clear plan for exactly when you will need what. Or for sales, what kind of people do you need? For development, who do you need? Who is currently on the team? And who will be needed in the future? This applies to HR, equipment, and various software solutions as well. All of this must be clearly defined and broken down into time frames with deadlines, because without this, it's impossible to develop and scale. Seventh, key activities. Key activities. What exactly needs to be done on a daily basis for the business model to effectively work? In other words, this is essentially like a comprehensive action plan. It should be a very concrete and detailed plan of action, meticulously broken down to the absolute smallest detail, literally for each and every day, week, month, and even year. But for dynamic startups, consistent daily activity is especially critically important, because what you diligently do on one particular day can significantly affect what happens the very next day. It's very difficult to forecast far ahead, and because of this, you need to keep working and constantly analyzing it. However, there should always be at least a fundamental, essential minimum set of activities that will ultimately and inevitably lead to tangible, positive results. Eighth, key partnership. These are the important key partners who help your business scale and reduce overall risks. In other words, these partners can be sponsors or investors. They can also be clients. And in order to successfully build a strong reputation in the competitive market, partners, specifically key partners, are a very important and crucial component. So if a highly reputable company already trusts you, and you can even prominently display their logo to clearly show that they actively work with you, this will undoubtedly have a very positive and significant impact on your overall reputation and future sales. With this valuable endorsement, you'll be able to attract many other clients and partners in the future. In other words, this will certainly help your business grow and expand considerably. And ninth is the absolutely critical cost structure. What expenses are truly and completely unavoidable? For example, there are some expenses that can be postponed. As I previously mentioned, for instance, the demonstration equipment you currently have today is entirely sufficient, but this can be left for the future. But there are expenses that are unavoidable. So because of this, you need to have a clear expense structure, what needs to be addressed immediately and what can be postponed for later. But for development purposes, these important and significant expenses should always be carefully kept in mind. And you truly need to see from which specific revenues these essential expenses can be adequately covered, or is there already a dedicated investor who can fully cover these considerable expenses? And one more very important and crucial point among these 9 fundamental blocks, you absolutely need to meticulously write out these individual blocks and thoroughly detail everything within each and every one. If even just one single block is empty, the entire business is already at significant risk. And just imagine if several crucial blocks are already empty there, then very significant problems begin to appear, and you need to carefully analyze whether it's truly worth moving forward with it. Now let's move on to the mistakes that occur when building a model. I've written all this down for myself so I can discuss it with you. An audience that is too broad. Many startups want to have all the customers at once. Look, every person has different needs. And we understand this, which is exactly why the concept of a target group exists in the first place. You need to realistically describe your actual customer and see where they are located. You can't work for everyone at the same time. And in actual fact, this truly means that you have adopted the entirely wrong strategy, and you might not even be able to find your intended target group at all if you try to work for all of the various target groups simultaneously at once. Secondly, unrealistic revenues. In a year, we'll have 1 million users. So it's truly great to fantasize, to dream, and to make plans. But if you want to plan to have this in just a year, you can set that as a significant goal. Not just what I want to have, but what do I need to do to achieve it? In other words, you really need to have a structured plan to reach 1 million. Maybe you'll reach 1 million users in 5 years, or perhaps in 2 months. So you truly need to plan this very carefully. What if people suddenly start using my products specifically? What does that mean? That is, they will actually subscribe to it. To effectively achieve this, you absolutely need to meticulously structure your entire business model specifically to reach certain predetermined goals. Just setting a vague goal that in a single year we'll somehow have it, it's actually very difficult. I think it's almost entirely impossible. It's a significant mistake to focus only on that particular aspect. Oh, that's it, we'll have this, everything will be really, really great for us. Ignoring expenses. They forget about marketing, taxes, operations. This is actually a very, very big problem for many people. Basically, we already have a great product. We'll sell it even without marketing. We can pay taxes later. Operational expenses, let the money come in first, then I'll take care of it. Right now, there aren't many of them. This is a very, very significant and truly enormous mistake. If you absolutely do not plan your financial expenses carefully, it's precisely the same as not putting essential fuel into your automobile, not completely filling up the gas tank, thinking you'll eventually do it when circumstances get much better. You will inevitably end up completely stranded on the side of the road, right where there are absolutely no gas stations whatsoever, right? That's exactly how you can just plainly explain it. You absolutely have to properly plan your expenses. There are unavoidable expenses. This needs to be taken into account. These are expenses you need in order to generate income. There's no testing. Everything is in the Excel, but there are no real actual clients. By the way, we've achieved a very good point. I really love this point. Sell it just before you've even started. Create cash flow. Sell even a product that isn't fully finished yet in order to refine it completely, to truly understand and get valuable feedback on what specific problems currently exist. And after that, you will eventually reach the significant point where your product is constantly being improved, thanks to direct and open communication with your valued customers. And in fact, these very people are the ones who are diligently testing your product for you. How incredibly well does it truly, truly, truly work? It said, you can write everything out. You can truly believe that you have a really, really great product. But in the initial test mode, certain unexpected problems always come up. So basically, the very first test runs can be absolutely free of charge, but you definitely need to attract people so they can start actively using it. And you'll then start getting specific and valuable feedback about precisely where there are gaps that you can promote even further. So there are actually a lot of truly successful startup cases like this. One of my absolute favorites and one of the very best examples in my mind is that when the brilliant founders of Google approached a business angel, he didn't even listen to their entire pitch until the very end and generously gave them twice as much money as they originally asked for to successfully create their groundbreaking startup. Then there are examples of other successful startups like Uber, like Airbnb. Now let's get to some more specific, valuable, and practical advice. First, make a prototype. Not code, but a simple solution. Test it out on a small audience, just like we carefully discussed today. Make a mini plan. I'm not talking about that huge business plan. Expenses, income, costs, profit. In other words, see if this business model actually works. Is it profitable or not? And trying to tackle everything at once, solving all the problems, that immediately kills your enthusiasm and drains your energy. Go step by step. I have a really good post. Cut the steak into pieces before you actually eat it. So basically, if you carefully look at all of this like a steak, a big piece of meat, meticulously cut it into many small digestible pieces, do everything step by step in a methodical manner. You absolutely need to have a very clear and precise plan of exactly where you're going, but precisely how you ultimately get to that goal truly needs to be carefully broken down into smaller, actionable steps. Sometimes, for example, you will certainly get more done in one day and perhaps less in another. But in any case, you truly need to understand that every single step you take brings you closer to your ultimate goal. In conclusion, I want to tell you that an essential business model is your important guiding navigator. An idea without a business model is just a dream. And you can see that many people have dreams, but very few people even take any steps to turn those dreams into reality. As soon as you start thinking about the structure, about how to actually create a model, that's already the beginning. Bam, the process has started. If you want your startup to survive, the first thing you need to do is create a structure. And one of my absolute favorite quotes is from Jim Collins's truly insightful book, Good to Great. He clearly states that for a truly successful model, you always, without exception, need the absolutely right people on the bus. And importantly, in the right place. That fundamentally means having the correct people on the very same bus and diligently making sure they're in their appropriate seats. So, if you are fortunate enough to have such a dedicated team, if you have a robust structure, then success is certainly bound to come. You just genuinely need to know how to patiently wait, consistently keep moving forward, and wholeheartedly believe in yourself. If you have this particular structure, and if all these 9 individual canvas squares are not empty, meaning you've already meticulously filled them in, you already fully understand your daily progress, you start diligently checking things off, and you have new important tasks constantly appearing, then you are definitely moving in the absolutely right direction. Keep moving steadily in that positive direction. I sincerely wish great success to everyone who genuinely has dreams and truly wants to see those cherished dreams come completely true, to turn them into a tangible reality. So go for it, take decisive action. I truly believe all of you can absolutely succeed if you have the strong desire, the clear structure, and the right supportive people by your side.